Hi, good morning, everyone, here in Israel. Happy to join you this morning and talk about how we see remote work and focusing specifically on remote work the day after the coronavirus. Let me start by introducing ourselves. I'm Ronen Rubinfeld, Flatwood co-founder and CTO. Together with me today, we have Gilad Bornstein. Gilad is Flatwood co-founder and CEO. Gilad is also a specialist in remote work and has a unique experience as a senior VP of engineering and crossover, one of the largest, if not the largest one, remote work companies in the world. Both of us established Flatwood a few months ago to deal and to provide a very unique solution in the hiring domain of remote work. We will describe a bit more about this later on during this session. Yeah. So what we are going to talk today is about remote work as strategic move. I guess that during the last few days or the last 2 weeks, all of us got exposed to remote work, and we all know remote work from as an emergency cure, maybe let's put it that way, to Corona, that everyone start practicing it in order to deal with the very awkward situation that we are facing these days. But we believe that remote work is not just that. Remote work is much more than that. Remote work is a strategic move. It is a decision that companies should take and are taking in order to find a better way to operate, and by doing so to accelerate their business results. Let's start by talking a bit and maybe comparing what remote work is versus what work from home is, which is what all of us, or most of us, are currently experiencing these days. So trying to simplify things, I can probably say that work from home means taking what we do or what we used to do in the office and just locate it back to home. But we still keep on doing the same thing that we did. But not only that, we keep on doing that in the same way that we used to do them while we were in the office. So we duplicate the office environment, the processes, the ceremonies, the culture, the DNA. We probably would like to do that because of business continuity. But the problem here is that if we don't do the other adjustments, we'll find ourselves very frustrated by the fact that our productivity is dropping down. Things that we used to do more efficiently when we were facing each other and talking to each other are now becoming much more complicated. And in general, instead of benefiting the values or the advantages of working from home, we'll find ourselves dealing with a lot of challenges and building a lot of frustration, both from the employee perspective, from our own perspective, as well as the organization, who will start seeing decline in performance and in the business results. On the other hand, companies that decide to take remote work as a strategic decision, regardless to the situation, they decide to do that because they believe this is the right things to do, and they decided to build themselves in a way that supports the remote work model, will find themselves benefiting from the advantages of remote work and being able to use them in order to accelerate their business results. By adopting what we call real remote model, I mean taking it as a strategic decision, operating in a distributed manner. Distributed means geographically. It can be that a company won't be any offices whatsoever, or might have some headquarters and other offices in some locations. But the culture, the DNA, the processes, everything that the company operates by will be aligned and tuned to work in a distributed manner. One of the main benefits that company achieve from this model is the ability to hire and to grow organically with a great talent without the restrictions or the limitations of a global hiring. Meaning, let's say that the company wants to grow and needs a very specific proficiency, which might be lacking in its own specific geography, or the competition there is very high. By going remote, we can find the great talent and have them join our organization, even though they are located in a different country or a different continent. Even. So, what what company benefit, or what all of us benefit from moving to the remote model? We can see, I'll go very quickly and cover some of the benefits from different perspectives. So from the hiring manager perspective, we see that the opportunity become almost endless. Instead of, as I mentioned, to limit ourselves to the local hiring potential, we can just by going remote hire whomever might fit to the position that we are looking at, and the opportunities just become greater. From the company perspective, we also get great benefit. So company, by adopting properly the remote work model, they win first of all, the ability to get a great talent regardless to the geographical limitation, as I mentioned. They also, since they were built in a way that supports the remote model, they also increase productivity, increase efficiency. Business results are accelerated due to the fact that there are less limitation. Just let's take even the current example, where we see companies forced to move to work remotely. But assuming those companies were already performing remotely, then the impact of the current situation probably would be lesser than it is if you need to do the shift as just as a result for the crisis that we are facing. Employees benefit, assuming that companies working properly or adopting properly the remote work model. Employees benefit a lot from the move to remote work. We can see that Gen Y and Z are already looking for this kind of flexibility and agility, and the way that they can balance their work-life integration or work-life balance properly. So some of them prefer to wake up early and do their job, and then spend some time with their family, and then go back and work and do their job. Others prefer to spend the morning doing some exercise or some hobbies and start working pretty late. By the remote work model, assuming it is being adopted properly by the company, the work is done mostly asynchronously. So people manage to handle their own timeline, their own schedule, as long as they deliver what they are expected to deliver. They just can operate in a way that best fits their model. This is one of the reasons that we see that employees report much higher satisfaction. The retention rate is higher. Generally speaking, employees report much higher, again, satisfaction and willingness to work in this model. And are and we see a great trend of more and more employees tending to shift to work remotely rather than keep on spending the time commuting and spending their time or budget moving to the IT hubs just to be next to their company headquarters. Another great benefit from the shift to remote is obviously to society. As I mentioned, I think maybe some of us already forgot about this situation, but 2, 3 weeks ago, we all were spending lots of time in commute, standing in the traffic every morning and every afternoon. Pollution was very high, electricity, real estate, all of it, the spending there is huge, just in order to allow us all be located at the same place and work closely to each other, which is in fact not really necessary in some cases. It's true that there are professions or there are roles that requires the face-to-face and the physical closeness to each other, but there are many that can be done distributedly. And again, if we manage to adapt the model properly, we'll see the decline in pollution, we see cost saving increasing. So this is, again, yet another opportunity to let the society that helps us and another benefit of the remote work. So, um, after talking a bit about the benefits of remote, let's realize or let's see where we stand in regards to remote. It seems that Corona made the remote appear, but practically there are so many companies who already adopted this model during the last 10 years. We see great increase in companies and in employees that adopt the model. We see more and more employees reporting that they are willing and spending some of them time remotely. We know of great companies, some of them are unicorns with billions of dollars of budget, who are already operating remotely and demonstrating that remote is a real, maybe the real model for future of work. This is where the business should go. And by doing it properly, we can benefit and accelerate our business results. The main question here is how we do that properly and how we avoid those pitfalls that make us that make it hard to adopt this model, and if they are not being done properly, they will cause failure for the model. Let me pause here and shift to Gilad, who will take us from here.
Excellent. Thank you, Ronen. So Ronen talked about working from home versus remote, and we have 10 more minutes, maybe even not a bit less than that, to teach you how to do it right. And this is, of course, impossible. But let's do our best and see how we move forward with that. So there are many ways to do remote work right? Unfortunately, there are also many ways to do it wrong. Our homes contain, potential temptations, interruptions that need to be handled. The mindset and work processes need to change radically. Remote is different, simply different. Lots of unlearning and relearning that needs to be done. And you as a potential remote worker or remote manager or remote company should look forward for. This is an amazing opportunity. I've personally went into remote after already having 20 years of experience in the industry, and much of my work and managerial habits had to change significantly because of this shift. So my number one tip for you guys is when you switch to remote, you should actually embrace change. You should look for the new learnings and don't take anything for granted. So tons of challenges, as I mentioned, when going remote. They include the cultural aspect, work processes, communication, synchronization, all over the place. And during this conference, we had lots and lots of sessions talking about them. There are also like gazillion blogs that went out throughout the past couple of weeks talking about moving to remote position, how you can handle it, and so on. So our goal is not to bore you and go over those once more. We'll try and handle a specific aspect about remote work that is less discussed usually, and that's around the hiring and the sourcing. So, when you want to go remote or hire remote employees, the number one thing is to get candidates, right? Remote candidates, and frankly speaking, putting the word out there that you are looking for a remote candidate is not that hard. There are dedicated job boards for remote positions where companies publish, and remote job seekers go to find their dream remote job. You can use social media, or you can use companies that's what they do sort of sourcing as a service, matching as a service, whatever. And there are some basic rules like any job description that you should adhere to. So around the job description, you should definitely enumerate the activities that the job includes. You should put an emphasis on the key success factor. What does it take to really nail down this position? Let the candidates filter out themselves, right? By reading the description, saying, yeah, I can succeed in this job, or no, that's not me, right? What you should not do is definitely build like those shopping lists of skills. People don't really go over them. They look at them as a recommendation and so on. That's really boring. When posting a remote job, it's very common to put the salary in the ad, or at least put the salary ranges. So you're not sure whether you'll get a more junior guy or more senior guy. So there's room to play with the salary range. So that's definitely one, put the salary range. It's also super important to publish the core hours, the time zones that you want your employees to work in, right? Because many companies don't care where their workers come from, but many companies want their workers to come from a more or less same time zone, so they can have core hours and have some synchronous communication between them. And you should expect tens or even hundreds of applicants for every position that you put out there. And that's where it starts to be tricky, because definitely we've learned that it's not enough to find a remote worker. You need to find the right remote worker. And what it means is, yes, technology enables us, to go remote, but that's just not good enough. There's the human element, the human factor, which is a critical piece in this puzzle, and humans are complex, right? We know by now that not everyone are fit for remote work. And more than that, we know that not every remote worker is a fit for every remote company, because the companies are very different from one another, and the way they do remote is very different from one another. So when we talk about fit in between the worker and going remote, and between the worker and the company, we are talking about having the remote worker, enjoying the fact that he's working from home. And some people suffer from that, right? So I enjoy working from home, and that's the way it should be with other remote workers as well. And when we talk about the match between the remote worker and the company, specific role, specific team, or specific company, we are talking about creating really a win-win situation where the company gets a higher engagement, higher productivity, higher retention, because the worker actually likes his workplace, right? And any other kind of assignment is definitely suboptimal, and to mention bad, with a lot of money being wasted. So how do you find the right fit or match for a role? There's the basic stuff. Basic stuff is that you need to test the technical skills, right? but this is large volumes, right? We're talking about many tens or hundreds of candidates. So you cannot screen CVs, you cannot interview everyone. You need to leverage one of the technical test platforms out there, and there are plenty of them. I will not waste our time at discussing this, but this is called top of the funnel filtering by giving the candidates the technical test before you actually interview them and so on. You should also build a multi-dimensional image of the different candidates because technical matching is just not good enough. You should look at their language proficiency, at their personality, at their soft skills, right? Do they have what it takes to become a remote worker? Are they what we call in the industry manager of one? Are they able to set up their own, their own goals, drive themselves to execute the goals without having the manager monitoring them all the time? Will they be able to unblock themselves? Will be able to communicate and raise flags whenever they are stuck and get themselves unblocked by doing that? What about the definition for quality deliverable? Is it aligned with the quality and so on and so on? So what we recommend to the companies to do is take a holistic view at it and really build this multi-dimensional perspective of the candidate and then cross it with your own team or your own company and see if there is a match. Are you a remote first or a hybrid team, right? Is your company new to remote or are you already experienced? Is there lots of communication and collaboration between the team members, or is it really sparse and people work on their own? And these type of factors need to be taken into consideration when you make the hiring. So again, as I mentioned earlier, 10 minutes is definitely not enough to deep dive into that. But hiring of remote workers is really tricky if you want to get it right. If you want to be able to build a hyper-performing type of an organization, leverage that. We've put over here some resources that we like a lot. A couple of books, a couple of blogs with lots and lots of great content. And if you have any questions or feedback that you would like to give us, you can approach us either at this email address or you replace the hello with Ronen or Gilad, and we'll be more than glad to have a chat with you. So thank you all for joining us today. Have a successful remote journey, and more importantly, stay safe. Thank you.